Don't speak what you don't understand. The truth is not in your command. Don't shout about what you think is fake. The decision isn't yours to make. Don't lie about the way things are. Tall tales will take you very far. Don't scoff when they say it's the end. In this life you know you can't pretend. The days pass by, they've set in stone. But it's not too late now for you to change your tone. Don't speak.
Good evening, everyone. It is 5 p.m. on Friday, April 24th. This is our Friday Night Live update. We have a lot to get through today. So I'm just going to give a couple more seconds to see if our numbers keep moving up, and then we will start. So just give me a couple more seconds. Okay. Oops. And of course, get our agenda. So you know what we'll be talking about. For those of you that did not get the email today, please make sure I sent it out just after noon, after 12 o'clock. So please check your spam if you did not get it. If you don't see it, it did come from the organization, retirees at nycretirees.org. And it came out at about 12:15, okay? And if you don't see it, check your spam or your junk folder, because it will be there if you have registered or if you've been a donor member of this organization. If you are not, I strongly encourage you to please go to our website. You can see it scrolling here at the top, and make sure you subscribe down to our YouTube channel if you're on YouTube, and that you're following us, because this is the only way for you guys to get updated information from the organization. Okay. We're doing really good. So I want to start. I want to do all of the news up front, and then we'll take questions afterwards. So I am going to start with talking about the email that I put out today. So our weekly update, we're telling you we're going to update you on legislation, litigation, the Medicare fraud issue, why some people around the country, not just New York City retirees, but some American taxpayers who are on Medicare, would be getting a new card. And then the pension Ponzi scheme, which I know everyone wants to hear about because there's so much misinformation. And I tell you, the stupid comments I've been handling like for the last several days is just insane. Which is what made me do that kind of funny video, like stupid is forever, because it is forever, and trying to educate people. And the shocking thing is I can't tell you how many times this week alone, I'm getting calls from people saying, I'm stuck in a Medicare Advantage plan and my new doctor doesn't take the plan. I'm like, where the hell have you been for 5 years? Like, this is what we've been saying, right? Or they don't even know our issue. Like, this is like, whew, I know, crazy. Okay, so litigation. There's no updates yet. There's no updates on the copay case, nothing. And we just kept telling you, we're just going to keep saying the same thing. Keep looking for your copays that you paid from January 1st of 2022 to January 12th of 2023. Just keep looking for them. Don't worry. Because when this is final, when they have finally figured out the process on what to do to have you you're going to get letters, you're going to see us doing videos, we're going to tell you all the information right then. You're going to get a list from Emblem Health that's going to say, these are the list of your visits, and this is what you have to look for. It's going to explain everything. So I'm not telling you to do anything. We're just only asking you to try to look and see that way, because there's going to be a window that we're going to have to do this in. And I'd rather you kind of start looking rather than not be able to do that later. So that's litigation. There's nothing moving there yet. Medicare fraud. So there was a Medicare breach. It affected about 100,000 people across the country last year. And those people got new Medicare cards. But there's also scams going around where plastic Medicare cards will come in the mail, or there'll be a thing where it'll say you have to call to what is it to activate your Medicare card. No, you don't have to do any of that. That's fraud. So if you guys ever see something like that that concerns you, or you're being asked to do something that's out of the norm, email us at the org and ask us a question before doing something like that. You will get a paper card. You can download your card. No one's going to call you and ask you for your number, your PIN. It doesn't come in a plastic version. You don't have to activate anything. So we put that information in the newsletter today because we don't know if any of you that this has affected. We just know there's a small number of people that this did impact, and we wanted you to know about it because we were getting calls about it as well, like, hey, does this affect us? Now, I can't tell you if it does, but if it did, you would have gotten a letter from CMS, Centers for Medicare and Medicaid, if it impacts you. So that's the Medicare issue. Legislation. Grab your pens. Everyone, grab a pen or open up an email on your cell phone, or you can always go back and play this. Don't worry, because it'll be in an email from us eventually too. So legislation. We are still waiting on the city council side for our bill to go through that process and be introduced by Councilmember Marte. There is no movement on that bill. Then, hold on a second. Long Beach, we were scammed, never got new cards. We reported the fraud. So Long Beach, I need you to call CMS. Actually, if you want, you can try calling them during this call because they are 24/7. You might actually get someone that can answer that question. If not, they will tell you have to call back Monday. If they can help you, they will. I actually did this with a council member 2 years ago at like 8 o'clock on a Sunday night, and they did answer the phone. So if you never got a new card, you're going to need a card. That's kind of important. But I would definitely contact CMS now and see what they say. While I'm finishing this show, at least you can update us what happened. I get a Medicare fraud robocall. Really? That's insane. I would block that call if I were you. Just block it so you don't ever have to pick it up, ever. Okay, so legislation, let's go back there. The city council bill is still working through its process. It goes through this process. It takes a little while. We're kind of wrapping that up, and I'm hoping to report something to you in the next couple weeks. Remember the first time we introduced our legislation, we didn't do it until I think June, July. Remember we did that huge rally where we introduced the city and the state bill both at the same time on Broadway, and we had the sponsors come out and meet with you. We had that big truck outside live streaming what was going on inside the city council. It's kind of cool. So hang tight because we know that that's going to happen. The state bill. So the state bill, has two parts, an assembly bill and a Senate bill. So they have to be companion bills, and the language has to mirror each other. So we've made some changes this year, and I want to announce to you that today, as of today, we are being told that there is a Senate bill, just the companion bill in the assembly is not yet final. And there will be some minor tweaks coming to the language. So, you can go up and read that. It's, I want to get this number right so I don't screw it up. It is Senate Bill 9945. I'm going to say it again. It is Senate Bill 9945, and it was introduced by Senator Joseph Addabbo. Now, in speaking with his office today, I am told that they would like us to start reaching out to our state senators. Do not call your state assembly person, just your state senators, and start asking your state senators to get on to Senate Bill 9945. Let me see if I actually pop that on here. So it'll start flying around as we're, where did that go? As we're talking. Can I do that? Yep. Oh, yeah, banners. Gotcha. Okay. So let's edit this one. And New York State Senate Bill 9945. Okay, save and show. Now look above. New York State Senate Bill 9945. So you are only going to contact your state senators. Please do not contact your assembly members yet because that bill is not ready. Once it is, we will announce it to you. But starting Monday or over the weekend, when if you see your state senator in your district, then, and remember, go back to your books that you got when we were up at Lobby Day, because then you would know who your state senator is. So, for example, and John, I believe you left your books in Albany. I will be mailing your book back to you because you're John Harrington. Your name is on your book. So this is your book, and inside it is the pictures of the senators with their emails. But you can go up on, see there's no phone numbers here, but you can email them, and you can also look up their numbers and call them on Monday. If you see them in the district, please tell them that you want them to get on this bill, and it was introduced by Senator Joe Adabo. They know the process. Just ask their staff to sign on to Senate 9945, okay? Now, give me 1 second. I just want to quickly pop over. Okay. And so that is what we're talking about today, is this Senate bill. I know you guys were excited to hear if that's coming. And yes, John, I promise you, I will mail. You had 2 books here. I think only one is yours. I'm not sure, but I will mail you that one book, the one with your name on it, back to you. So I just want you to know I do have it. So I want to make sure you guys know that that's exactly what has happened in this last week, and that we're pretty excited. Is there a website to look up who my state senator is? Yes, absolutely there is. So New York State Senator, I want you to go to this website, which I will drop into the chat. Give me 1 second. I'm posting the link in the chat. It'll go to Facebook and it'll go to YouTube. Let me drop it over in Instagram for those watching on Instagram. And so let me show you what that looks like. I have to stop that share screen. Okay, let me share this other screen with you. Okay, so when you go to that website, this is what it is going to look like. Okay, find my state senator. And so on this page, you are going to add your street address. It says, please enter your street address and zip code to find out who your state senator is. Note this feature is limited to addresses within the state of New York. So we're looking only for New York State senators. So you would put your address in here, and then fill everything in, your address, your city, your zip code, and then click Find My Senator, and it'll tell you who your state senator is. So very simple. That's how you can do that. Make sure you do that and find out who your person is, because if you don't know, shame on you, because you should, but it is state senators only. We're not looking for anybody else. So William, great question, but you are in Jersey. But if you do want to call someone that you know, or you can call anyone you want. If you're not in the 5 boroughs and you don't have a state senator, I would say start calling all of them. And then you can go up onto the Legistar website and look and see who is on it, so you don't call them. Starting next week, we will start a list of those. We'll keep an updated running list on our website, but I just need some time to put it all together and then set up the website so that you can go and find the people that you may need to call, the senators' offices and whatever, and see the running list that will probably update weekly for you, okay? So now I want to show you one more thing, because now we're going to move into the next section. Share screen again. Okay. Now, moving on. So we did legislation, Senate Bill 9945. That's the only bill. Schumer is a federal senator, Mary. Schumer is not a state senator. Schumer is congressional. We're talking state, New York State, okay? So wherever you live, I'm going to suggest you go to the link that I put up there and look and put your address in and see who your state senator is. Yes, you can use any address you want. If you can use your old address, your old work address, or relatives, that doesn't matter who. You can just call, and you can call a couple if you don't live here. Help out a little bit more, because that also helps. Get your friends to call, get your other family to call. If your family lives in the district, ask them to call. Give them the number to the office or the district office and say, hey, could you call and ask them to support this retiree health care bill to protect our Medicare benefits? That would be the best thing to do. So don't worry, we will get those numbers up. But if you use the link that I just posted, you will eventually find your person and you can call them right there. Okay. Now, we talked about legislation, we talked about litigation, we talked about Medicare fraud. Let's talk about pension Ponzi schemes, because this is really, really, really important. There is so much misinformation about this. So now I want to go into pension conversations. Let me just pull up my notes for you. Okay, so what does Article 5, Section 7 of the state constitution protect? It protects your pension. It protects it from diminution, from being diminished, being reduced at any time, right? What does that actually mean? And is the city actually obligated to pay your pension if the city went into a financial crisis or bankruptcy? And the answer to that is yes. New York State's Constitution, Article 5, Section 7, is one of the strongest public pension protection clauses ever in the country. But I want to warn you, Illinois has almost the exact provision of Article 5, Section 7 in their state constitution as we did. They actually modeled theirs after ours back in the 70s. And it does say that in this context, that membership in a public pension or retirement system is a contractual relationship, and the benefit of that relationship cannot be diminished or impaired. When we did our legislation for healthcare, we modeled our bill after that, okay? In the difference between Chicago and us, and I'm going to keep talking about Chicago and you're going to see why. Chicago's courts interpreted that Article 5, Section 7 protected not just their pension, but also protected their health care. In New York State, the courts did not take that same position. They took the position that it was just pension and did not cover health. And we learned that in the course of doing our litigation. So for municipal retirees, including New York City retirees, once you become a member of a covered retirement system and earn pension rights under that law in effect, then accrued pension benefits cannot be reduced. So that is, your pension cannot be reduced by the city or the state. Governments generally cannot cut your promised pension formula, your vested rights, or any of your already earned benefits that were done through that legislation. Courts in New York have interpreted this broadly compared to other states, and this protection is added after earlier eras when governments changed pension terms after employees had already, worked under them. So it'd be really kind of a crappy thing. And New York said that they wanted to protect that if something were to happen, especially after the pension crisis, the fiscal crisis of the 70s, that your pension was protected and wouldn't be reduced. So normally, like if I were to say like, hey, does this guarantee a pension payment during bankruptcy or fiscal crises? In a normal fiscal crisis, there's strong protection and the city is still obligated to pay. If New York City faced a budgetary crisis, recession, severe deficits without a bankruptcy, the city would still be legally obligated to pay those pensions. Pension payments are treated as a binding obligation. So the city would need to fund them. And how do they do that? Taxes, borrowing if they're legally able to, or they have the means and they're not like bonded out, they're not rated out. And what I mean by that is that the like your Moody's and the bond raters that assign a risk to the city doesn't come up with a risk that's so expensive that the city cannot borrow money, because that was the problem in the 70s. They would do spending cuts elsewhere. They might stop collective bargaining agreements like they did in the 70s. They might force you into Medicare Advantage because it's free and it's a savings, according to them. They might restructure other obligations. But pensions would be among the hardest obligations to legally reduce because of that constitutional clause. And this is why we always say we're not doing a constitutional reopener every 20 years. This is why we fight that. However, New York City has never gone through a Chapter 9 bankruptcy. New York State currently does not generally authorize municipalities to file like a Chapter 9 in a broad way that some other states do, but a filing would require state authorization and normal political legal challenges. It's a really bad thing to do. But I'm going to tell you that in practical speaking, that New York City's bankruptcy is not currently on an operating framework. What would happen is they're going to pay that pension, but other stuff is going to suffer. And whether that's increased copays, they're going to add premiums, they're going to force you into managed care, put you in Medicare Advantage, they're going to stop paying fringe benefits to the pensions, to the unions, stop paying welfare fund monies, which they all rolled back. That's called fringe. When the city gives money to the unions to administer the welfare fund benefits, all of that was paused in the 70s. So likely they would use annual budget revenues. So they would use whatever is coming into the city. They would raise taxes and fees. They would cut discretionary funding. They would, my eye keeps watering. Sorry, it's like allergy season. They would borrow money or refinance debt if the markets allowed. They would seek state intervention or even an oversight authority. Back in the 70s, you had the Board of Estimate and the Financial Control Board. Nothing would happen in the city. No money could be spent if the Financial Control Board said no. And then emergency restructuring to protect for protected obligations before the pensions. Historically, during the fiscal crisis of the 1975, the city underwent extreme measures, but it never stopped paying those pension obligations. But people did suffer. I mean, there was added cost, there was increased taxes, their services suffered. So culturals stopped, your museums and your libraries. These are all things that would happen. Article 5, Section 7, like I said, protects your pension, not your health care. This is why that's also a problem, because people keep saying online, my pension's protected. Well, yes, but if they don't have the money, it's going to have to come from somewhere. And this is then what pisses people off, because if they're saying we have to pay those retirees pensions, but we're going to have to raise your taxes by 10%, they're not going to like us. So yes, it's protected, but you need to understand this funding mechanism. Okay. Illinois. This is why this is important to put this in a context, in the specific content. Chicago had a similar constitutional protection that we did, right? I told you it mirrored almost ours. They did it around the same time in 1970, I think. How did they handle their pension crisis and why was it different? Well, Illinois had a protection clause very much like ours, like I've said to you. The Illinois Constitution says that membership in a public pension or retirement system is an enforceable contractual relationship and benefits should not be diminished or impaired, just like ours. It is also one of the strongest clauses in the country next to ours because they modeled it after ours. So why did Chicago still have a pension crisis? Well, because constitutional protection benefits clause protects benefits that are owed to workers and retirees. It does not automatically guarantee that governments responsibly fund those promises every year. And this was the core problem in Chicago and broader in Illinois. There was decades of underfunding contributions. There was pension holidays, skipped or inadequate payments, which is kind of what they're talking about doing with us. And I'll get to that in a minute. Optimistic investment return assumptions, meaning that they assumed the rate of return would be higher than it was. The liabilities were growing over time because more people were retiring. Political reluctance to raise taxes or spending, was hard to catch up. In short, this promise remained protected but they had to, money was not set aside to honor it. And that really lagged, causing them to have this, financial crisis. They generally did not solve it by cutting already earned core benefits for pensions or for existing members, because the courts blocked many attempts of that to do so, because there was plenty of people trying to end that. But Illinois court, for example, struck down pension efforts in 2015 that tried to reduce the cost of living adjustments, the COLAs, and other benefits that workers and retirees relied on. Chicago also faced litigation over municipal and laborers' pension changes. Instead, the government used other tools. They increased taxes and they increased fees and they put revenue measures on other aspects of daily government. They increased employer contributions, so the city had to ramp up the required annual payments to the pension fund. Where are we hearing that today? So benefit also was changing for new hires. This was one of the things why they were also talked when they did tier 6, was saying that they had to reform the pension system. Look where that got them. And I'm going to tell you, I do not believe today's crisis for staffing is largely because of the pension. I think it's a lot of things. Its wages aren't going up where they should be. The unions, I believe, are not doing their job in making sure that their annual increases are negotiated above 2 and 3%. Those are still shit numbers. And they're not providing equity in their other titles. That's got to change. So I think all of that together, and it's not just a crappy ass pension, because if you made a decent wage, then you can take your pension and you can also have a retirement fund or a 401 on the side. There are plenty of financial investment managers that you can do that. You can even use the city's deferred compensation. It's more than just tier 6 being screwed up. So that's another issue. Debt and pension obligation borrowing. Borrowing was sometimes used, making loans or bonds with mixed long-term results. And that's why we're also concerned, because when the city's talking about doing these long amortizations, spreading those costs over many years, you've heard me say, and I'll explain this again, that doing a re-amortization of a UAL, unfunded accrued liability, means you're doing a refinance. So if they've got 6 years left, now they're going to refinance that, and take that 6 years and expand it another, let's say 12. What is that doing? Well, when they re-amortize, it reduces what they have to pay today and spreads it over another 12 years. That means that they're consistently paying interest into all of those pension systems on that unfunded accrued liability, and keep dumping more interest, more taxpayer dollars to keep funding that pension. And instead of the pension being fully funded by 2032, now you've got 12 or 14 more years to do that, which means more taxpayer dollars, and you're looking at a longer risk cycle, because you have to hope that the market stays steady. Just because it has historically doesn't mean it's still gonna, and that there's a possibility that that wouldn't happen. Today's pensioners, like me, like some of you, our pensions, if you're currently retired, our pensions are funded. You know who's not? The active workers. They're not funded. And that's what this was meant to do, is to pay for the pension funding for today's workers, so that the money is there and there isn't this concern that there isn't enough money to fund it, and then it becomes another big, huge payment that the city has to make when maybe they're in another financial crisis. And I want to prove this to you, because I dug back up those videos that we did with Brad Lander. So after the crisis in 1975, fiscal oversight mechanisms became a lot stronger. And then back in 2005 is when the city actuary under Mr. North, I believe it was, decided that we needed to fund pensions properly. And that right now today, we're just over 85% funded for the current workers. And that if we keep on this schedule of funding our pensions the way we're supposed to, but that by 2032, they should be 100% funded. And by 2032, you will hear me ask him a question, that what happens in 2032 when the pension obligation is paid for? Now the city has about $10 billion that it's been putting into pensions. What's going to happen to that money? And I'm going to let you listen to him say it first. So why is this kind of tying in with us? This actually, Chicago and New York, have a lot of things very similar. You cannot easily break a promise in pension. You have a constitutional pension protection, but it doesn't mean that you can ignore the funding of the pension without a consequence. Chicago's crisis was largely a funding crisis, not a legal ability to cut benefits crisis. We're having that same issue where the mayor and the speaker and some of the unions, DC 37 and the UFT largely, are encouraging you doing some of these pension Ponzi schemes, we call them, to fund something else that they want. Now, if the city is paying $10 billion into pension obligations as unfunded accrued liability, and they want to reduce that $10 billion to the pension to free up more cash, what would they want to do that for? Do you know? Let me tell you. Fixing Tier 6, increase wages, because if you heard Dean Foulahan, he only put in like 1% into the labor fund to fund contracts this year. They want more money. Where's it coming from? Active worker pensions. And they're going to try to reduce. This is why they're arguing to do this. And this is not what we should be doing. So New York, this is why New York retirees should be careful, and we need to care, even though that for current retirees, this doesn't necessarily impact us. But we need to be aware, because if they do some stupid shit, they are going to come to retirees again, like they did before, and try to force us into Medicare Advantage, put more copays, increase our deductibles, which they're talking about now. The Municipal Labor Committee has been talking about trying to increase our copays, make our deductible in senior care match our Medicare deductible. So I'm telling you guys, we need, even though this component may not impact us directly, we must stay vigilant on this, because they will come after us. They will come after everyone on this. And that's why we have to stay alert, and we have to be the people that constantly say to them that while you think this is a good idea, and you, the active worker, doesn't give a damn that they're going to be doing this reamortization or a pension obligation bond. What is that? That we, as a retired person, we still have a vulnerability. They tried to force us into Medicare Advantage. They hit us with copays in 22. We sued. They're going to hit us. They hit us again in 25. Now they're talking about increasing them. Do you see what I'm saying? And we're not even in a major financial crisis like they're talking about. Pension obligation bonds. What is that? This means you have this unfunded accrued liability that has to be funded. And they got to come up with a number on how the hell they're going to do that. Well, how are they going to get money? They sell bonds. Now, if they go and they make a bond, like a loan, like there's another name for it, like a bond loan. And so they go to the lenders and they say, we need whatever it is, $60 billion. And so now, depending upon the financial status of the city, the bond raters will assess a risk rate, an interest rate to the city of New York to borrow that money. That money then goes into the pension fund. Now they have the loan. Now they have to pay that loan back, and they have to hope that investments in whatever they're in that make enough money to keep the pension system happy and the money in the system and doesn't tank. They don't lose money on whatever the hell they're investing in, and that the bonds, that they're making enough interest to pay them off, or enough money is coming into the city to pay that off. That is a debt. So now they're buying more debt. They're increasing their debt. They're creating a debt, another loan that this has to be paid off, but they're also taking that money and funding it into the pension. You have to pray to God that the markets stay rich and happy to be able to pay off the debt and keep your pensions funded and not lose money. Because just because you put the money in the pension system, if the market tanks, so does your pension. So this is why we don't like that. Pension obligation bonds. And so POBs, they call them POBs for short. So this is why you hear us talking about that. Very, very risky. And if you saw my Substack, please, if you haven't gone to my Substack, go to Substack, look up my name. You will see this there. I've talked about this. I showed you all the municipalities that have tried pension obligation bonds, reamortizing the unfunded accrued liability, UAL, and that they failed. And when they didn't have a protection like us or Chicago have, how they ran into some issues where either the pension went bankrupt or even the municipality went bankrupt. Now, New York will pay your pension. I'm telling you that in 99.9% of the circumstances, but you're going to pay for it somewhere else. And if you are a state resident, your taxes could get jacked up. You could be charged more for car insurance, health insurance, co-pays. They could force you into Medicare Advantage. They're going to be pulling money every which way they can because they're that desperate. So I have to keep saying this. This is why this is a concern, and it should be a concern for even current retirees, because you still have something that has a value. And if they're looking to cut money or looking to find ways, like the MLC did it. The MLC charged you a copay and tried to force current retirees to charge you a premium back in 2022, 21. They did that to fund them. And it will happen again. So this is why I need you to pay attention specifically to this issue. Let's talk about Mark Levine. So I put up a post. I had Mike put up a post. Thank you, Michael Tambasco. Love your moderators because they do a great job for us in helping moderate the page and the questions. In our newsletter today, and well as Mike the other day, put up a post on our Facebook page where we were asking two things. So there was two questions. One, we asked if you had any questions about the $4 billion that the comptroller wants to spend to put into the AFL-CIO HIT. So it is a public trust, housing investment trust that is run by the AFL-CIO. They've been doing this since the 90s. It is nothing new. I think it started under Liz Holtman, actually. And it has its ups and downs. It's not been as wildly successful as they wanted it to be, but it's had some good years and some not so good years. But if you have questions for the comptroller, please go to the Facebook page and send us a question to ask them. We're going to go through them and we're going to have a meeting with them. And we're going to encourage them to explain some of this so that we understand. And some of the questions were pretty good, like why are we going up to $4 billion from $2 billion? Why is there a 40-year reamortization, an amortization of the 40-year debt? Why is it not less than that? How long do they expect to not have rental coming in? So you want to know how long is it going to take until those apartments or buildings are renovated or built that you actually have income coming in to go back into the trust to make up for what we've spent. And we want some of those questions to help put your minds at ease. But I do want you to know that choice of doing that is a lot less risky than the other two that I mentioned before. So we'll help get your answers to those questions, and I'll keep you, posted on that. The other question I had posted and I put in the newsletter was we were asking everyone, we don't want any personal data. We didn't want any name, anything. I just wanted to know on average, because we have like almost 150,000 people in our member database. We want to know how many of you, like what's your gender and what's your birthday? That would give me your age. So in that information, is I have no way to track you. I don't have a name. I don't have an address. I don't have a phone number. I don't have an email. I have nothing. I needed those two pieces of information in order to give this to the company that we're working with to say, this is the population that's interested in some type of benefits with us, like usually their investment or insurance products. And this is the aggregate data of who we are. And so by showing them that, they can come up with an offering to us of things that maybe we might be interested in purchasing that would help us, that we're not getting the benefits out of somewhere else. Many different retirees have different unions that provide different benefits. Some have crappier benefits than others. Some don't have benefits at all. Some have very limited benefits, and you end up having to buy them. For example, one of the most disturbing things is I don't understand why they're like the United Federation of Teachers is one of the richest unions in the city, but they don't really provide you with a dental plan. The dental plan that you have is like a discount plan, not a true dental insurance plan. So like a DC-37 plan, I'll tell you, my plan is still crappy. And this is another crazy thing is if all the unions went together and did one big, amazing union dental plan, we'd probably have really great dental. But I can walk in with a schedule with the Delta Dental that we have, and in my plan, exactly what's covered. And there's no out of pocket if I stay within the covered providers. Yet in some of these other union plans, they're not coverage, it's discounts, which you're still paying for. So while it's a discount program, it's not really an insurance. And yet they call it dental plan or dental insurance, but it's really not. So we're trying to see if we can create something for you based on our volume, our numbers, our interest, if people would be interested in that. And that was the reason for the ask. There's no way to track it. There's no way to identify you. There's no way to create a fraud or anything. I don't even know who answered it. I will never know who answered it. I don't have your name. I don't have your phone number, your email, your nothing. I have nothing other than gender and birthday. And that was all the information the company wanted from us. No, Gerald, as I said at the top of this hour, there is no same as yet on the Assembly side. There is only a Senate bill, and just work right now off the Senate bill. That language will slightly change once the Assembly bill is married to it. There is a same as, but right now, no. Okay, so that's really all I have. Now I want to scroll back up and see what else I have missed while I was talking. Okay. Whoops. Robert Rendo, in a horror case scenario, what would it take to change the pension protection law as a constitutional convention? Yes. And in the New York City Charter, can that be altered? If so, how? Anything can be altered. I mean, look, they try to change the administrative code, the unions and the AMLC and the mayor. I mean, they could do anything they want to do, but that protection you have is in the state constitution, and it comes up every 20 years. Let's see. Ellen, but when Detroit filed for bankruptcy, I seem to recall city pensions weren't protected. I mostly looked at the state side. You may be correct, depending upon if there was something that ended up changing in the city. But my larger argument to people is that if the city can't come up with the funding, they're going to make an adjustment, and you will feel that. I'll tell you, like I said, in this 1975, the city and the state, this New York City did not choose to reduce the pensions. They chose to pay. And this is why they were struggling. The costs, the increased sales taxes, the increased fees, the reductions of services, the reallocation of money in the budget to apply it to make sure that they could fund what they were obligated to. So this is why it's important to tell you that if we don't find a way to pay for this, people are going to feel it. And they're going to make adjustments to you, whether it's your healthcare, your copays, your drug plan, things that you now enjoy for free, you're going to pay for because they need to reallocate the funding for that. Remember, the city gives the unions money to run their welfare funds. Your welfare fund isn't funded by the union. It is funded by collective bargaining. The city pays the union X amount of dollars a person a year, active and retired, to put into the welfare fund. When that happens, they will... if financial crises happens, they will find a way to pause that. They did it in the Americana Agreement, and in 1976, they froze all fringe benefits. There was no wage increases. They reduced what they were given to the welfare funds. You had no increased take-home pays. You had no COLAs. All this paused. They didn't re-implement that till the very next agreement, where they put everything back in place, but it took them several years to do that. So this is why I'm saying to you is we need to stay alert, because just because you're currently retired doesn't mean you're not going to be impacted. You will be. Okay, Katie. It's guaranteed and cannot be reduced, but when these fiscal crises happen, you still get the pension, but the other variables all increase. Yes, absolutely. And you're not going to get your raises or your other monies. That's the point that I'm telling you. Most of us live check to check, right? We know that we rely on that cost of living adjustment. We rely on the increases that we do get. We rely on knowing that there is no premium to our drug plan, or, for those of us that have a drug plan, that there is no premium to. You rely on, if you do pay for the city Medicare plan, it's $180. Well, what if they jack it up to $250? Then what are you going to do? And then with everything else, because you got to remember, if we're in that bad of a fiscal crisis, fuel's going to be high, Con Ed's going to be high, your groceries are going to be high. You're in a major financial mess at that point. And the city still has to operate and run, and they're going to get their money from somewhere. Can you go to a UFT retirees chapter meeting and say all this? Maggie, darling, let me say something. I heard the RTC meeting yesterday, and I laughed my ass off that Chapter Chair Bennett Fisher said that he was disappointed in our organization for not coming to him to ask permission to have my trip to Albany to lobby for our legislation without asking him first. Well, it would be wonderful, since he got elected, I guess, since January of 25, if Bennett had actually called our organization. He has our phone number, has our email, never heard from the guy. And why should I have to ask Bennett? Bennett should have known about this, because it was brought to his attention by Arthur Goldstein, who said, hey, listen, Marion had to change the date again. It happened to be on the same time as the RTC meeting. We really need you to, could you change the date on this? Bring everyone from the RTC up to Albany. This would be fantastic. Then it was like, no, can't do that. So would I like to work with him? He should be working with us. I mean, we helped get him elected. We helped him lift up his organization. And then he basically flat out abandoned supporting retirees. I mean, it's just sad. But I wish I could, Maggie, because there'd be a lot of things that we could say. I was there once. I don't think I was there after that. I was there with Jake, and we talked about healthcare and the litigation, and we've not been invited back. But I don't really need that, because we get way more attention and we have a further reach on our own platforms than I think the RTC does, to be quite frank with you. But thanks for asking, and you're always welcome to listen to us, and we'll always answer your questions. So the city has to fund our pensions. What about active employees? So if the pension isn't funded, then there is no funding for when those retirees retire, which is why we keep saying you don't touch rainy day fund. You don't touch the retiree health benefit trust. Those are savings measures to make sure that the city is on firm footing, and that pension obligations or healthcare obligations are fully funded, and that you are protected. That's why this is important. Active employees, they could freeze wages. They could fall into such a crisis that they're delaying paying you because there's no money in the checkbook. That's what happens. Let's see. This is Ian. I spoke to a supervisor. Even if you have surgery, there's a $15 copay now from Emblem. So, Ian, it all depends on where you're having that. If you're going into an urgent care, or you're going into a surgery center, or you're going into the hospital, there's been copays on that assessed since 2025. That's been normal. There's always fees for that. And the hospital side, if you're inpatient, there's certain hospital copays that you would have for that, as well as the doctors. So that's not, you're not telling me anything that I don't already know. Also, remember, those pension bonds need to be paid back first. Yes. And do they have a schedule and an interest rate? Absolutely. And yet Mulgrew allows all of this to happen rather than fighting it. And the new luxury property tax, the wealthy proposal by Mom Dummy, is political theater. Well, I guess everyone needs a little theater, right? Pension bonds that comptroller and unions are requesting would be affected even indirectly by New York City's lowered financial ratings. In other words, the bonds are likely to be less attractive to buyers. This reminds me, let me show you this video. Hold on a second. Some of you may remember this. Now let me just find where the heck it is. That's fantastic. Well, here's Ellen's comment for you. If DC 37 and or the UFT try to amend the governor's executive budget again to change the amortization schedule for NYCERS, BRRS, and TRS, as mayor, could you do anything? What could you do, if anything?
Yeah, I mean, this is a proposal Eric Adams' administration made, and I opposed loudly. And luckily, I have a lot of good allies in the state legislature. State Senator Finance Chair Liz Krueger, who I'm pleased to say has endorsed me for mayor. We talked just a lot about finance issues. And so this one, it was clear to say to people, look, we are on track to have the pensions fully funded by 2032. That was a plan that was made back in 2005. And some cities really got in trouble, like Chicago underfunded their pensions, and now they're in a lot of trouble. So a plan was made to get them to 100% funding. It's a smart plan, and I'm not going to let it be derailed. So yeah, I mean, as mayor, I will not put that plan forward. So we won't have to worry about it.
Is there a way, and we're very proud that you did that, by the way, because our group was also part of that catalyst that was writing to the state legislature not to do that after, especially we heard your testimony with Councilman Brannon in the Finance Committee, and then hearing about it and watching the testimony out of TRS. So one of the things that we know is that our pensions are protected under state constitution, but there isn't anything funding our healthcare. Can we not create something instead of being a pay as you go? We have like a pension fund that funds our healthcare futures. Yeah.
So this is a great question. And really the two are tied together because up through 2032, we are going to be catching up to get to 100% funding in the pension funds. After that, rather than just drop off and disappear the money that we have been putting in, so every year, right now we're putting about $10 billion a year into pensions. Roughly half of that is this year's pension obligation for, this year's employees. We're incurring an obligation for them. You work this year. It's a long time from now, thank God, Kenohara, that you'll need your pension. But we're going to put the money aside and have it earn interest and grow over all that time. Okay. The other half, the approximately other $5 billion, is this catch up for underfunding that happened in the past and that will get to fully funded by 2032. That money post 2032 could go to fulfill what are called our other post-employment benefits. They call it OPEB. That's a fancy term for things like retiree healthcare. And we could then build up what's called the Retiree Healthcare Trust Fund, which has just been used as a piggy bank, a kind of rainy day fund by the city. We should make it into a real retiree healthcare trust fund that is paying for exactly this, where we build up money over time, specifically to pay for retiree healthcare. And that's good for two quite different reasons. One, your healthcare is going to be there. But two, it's a really good fiscal management practice because, and the bond rating agencies like it. If we did that, I think it might get us an improvement in our bond rating so we could pay less money for what we borrow for our, streets and schools and parks.
Right. Absolutely. That I think would be a great idea. When this happens, let's do this, because I also want to close that door on the retirement health benefit trust being used like that rainy day fund you call it. We call them slush funds, but we want to be able to close that door a little bit. And hopefully that's something the mayor can do right?
Yes. I mean, that'll take a partnership. So we'll need to work together because the mayor can initiate, but, it'll need the state legislature, and obviously, the unions, have a strong point of view on issues that are going to, in this one, I think they would be supportive because they also, care about the, but whatever, that'll be a partnership we need to build together.
Yes, I agree with you. We need to build bridges there. Ellen says, why can't our organization get a copy of the trust fund document with its bylaws and rules? What trust fund document? Now, I don't know if hold on, let me set that down. Ellen, I don't know if you ever got that. If you didn't, please let me know. Because we never followed up on that after that meeting before he left. So great point on that one. But now you hear this was directly from the comptroller at the time when he was running for mayor. telling you that at the end, if by 2032, you will have this $10 billion, what we should be doing with that money is maybe funding the next round of pension obligation and then putting another $5 billion a year into the retiree health benefit trust to make sure there's money there to pay for retiree health care. You heard me ask him, can't we fund health care like we fund pensions? And it's another question that we will ask this current comptroller. This is why we have to stay on top of this, is because right now they're all looking, the mayor, the unions, the city council, the speaker, are all looking to take money to do something, whatever it is that their pet project is, but they're not looking at you. Look, we still can't even get the mayor to freaking talk to us. So that means we're not a priority, right? And so he is looking at taking in the proposed budget. The mayor puts out the proposed budget. The city council puts out theirs. They now have these back and forth budget hearings, and they're trying to come to a consensus. So you have the unions in the city running up to the state trying to get tier 6 passed, fixed tier 6. That costs money. If they do the UAL reamortization, that frees up some cash for that. They know that DC 37's contract expires in November. UFT contract expires next year. Dean Fulihan, first deputy mayor, said they've only put aside 1% for labor negotiations this year. That's bullshit. So they're looking for cash. Does that mean that they're not going to put you into Medicare Advantage? No. And that was a bullshit thing that the UFT RTC put out the other day, that that resolution that Mamdani was not going to do MA. That is not the conversation. They are so desperate for cash right now. Trust me when I tell you, we are being told that they are going to look to change healthcare, rebid senior care, increase copays, increase deductibles. They don't give a damn where they put money in. So take money out of to put money in their piggy bank, just like they did before. And why does the unions keep saying, the MLC leadership keeps saying that they don't want our bill to pass because it would interfere with their collective bargaining? Because it shuts their little grubby fingers from going into your pocket. Then they can't charge you a copay. They can't charge you a deductible. This is why we need our legislation passed. You're going to see us in the next couple of weeks start to ramp up the pressure on this. We've been waiting for this point, and I know it's been driving you crazy. It's been driving me even crazier because I am not a patient person, but it's taken us to this point. So as you see, we do have our state bill, Senate only number starting next week. All of you better start calling your state, New York state senators, either in your district office or in the Albany office, and tell them, please get on this bill. It is sponsored by State Senator Joe Adabo. So let me just quickly jump down and see if we have more questions. I'm flagging a few that I do want to talk about that are some really good questions tonight. Are there any unions in New York City that support your cause? Yes, absolutely. There's a lot of unions, primarily the two that don't, DC 37 and the UFT. And, we still hope that they have a come to Jesus moment and actually try to help us. But I will tell you, I will be meeting with your union president. I will be back in town again next month. And I promise you, if that happens, I will let you know what happens. We reached out to TWU Local 100 the other day. They are no longer in the MLC, but I know the MLC is trying to get them back in. But we want to talk to them because you heard us talking with their members, active union members of TWU 100 on the air the other day that raised some really good union concerns. And this is one of the things we need to do. Labor needs to stand with labor. Retirees support what we've built. They need to understand, and active workers need to protect their retirees. And they also need to make sure that they're advancing the labor movement. Otherwise, by leveraging each other against each other, they're only giving fodder to the people who are trying to break us down. And we don't need that. So I'll let you know if that happens. I've promised to you that before. I'm working on trying to build those networks with TWU. I did reach out to them as well as reaching out to your union, and let's see what happens. But yes, there's really very few locals that do not support what we're doing. And they are the two biggest ones because they made those deals. So, and it's okay. Like, I don't need to tell you, you know, hey guys, you screwed up. I just want to work with you to fix it and educate you why we should never do this again. And let's codify it in some sort of something that this never happens again. We don't need to be shooting our own selves in the foot. Yes, so thank you for scheduling a meeting with Comptroller Levine. I hope you find out the extent of the oversight they will provide for any pension plans. He certainly hasn't shown any care about the violations of the stabilization fund. So, Laura, so you know that is on my agenda. I'm looking forward to it. In 1976, didn't New York City stop providing Tier 1 benefits and begin Tier 2 pension benefits? Annie, I honestly don't remember the year on that, but that would have been a pension reform, most likely. Let's see. William, yes, I did not forget your question. Who won the MLC election? There was none. So there was no election yet, but don't worry. I will be doing another email on this, and I will put that email out as well. That is going to be a campaign. Again, there is a vacancy, and there's still some fuzzy parts to this. So you know that there's 5 people on the officers, and the chair has been empty since June, since Harry Nespoli of Sanitation retired, which leaves co-chairs Michael Mulgrew, Henry Garrido, the treasurers Gloria Middleton, and the secretaries Greg Floyd. So there's one position available, and that one position has to be a uniformed member. There's right now 2 applications they've accepted from the last round, which was Benny Bascio of Corrections, as well as Jim Brosey from the UFOA Fire Officers. We've supported Jim Brosey in this. I think he's intelligent, he's rational, he's calm, he's an officer, he has the management skills. And I've always said to you, Benny Bascio supported Medicare Advantage, and he's never communicated with us, even though we've asked. Jim, while he and I may not always agree, we at least can have a conversation. And that's respect. And that's really the minimum to give to somebody. And I'm fine with that, and so should you. So I think we should encourage our other leaders who have the voting capacity to actually, to actually do that. Get behind putting him on the board. Now, here's the question. There's only one vacancy, and the vacancy's chair. So who, when they have this, they call this special election, and let's say Mr. Brosey gets elected, is he going to be the chair? Right now, Henry Garrido is the acting chair. So where does he go? The bylaws, very interesting, and we can get into that in another show as to not make this drag on too long, because I want to keep this short and brief, but that is an issue. And then their general elections won't be held until September. So there's a lot of questions that we're asking as to how this will be managed. You also have the MLC's main goal was to staff and partially pay the Office of Collective Bargaining. That's been bastardized, and that's not changed. They never found labor chairs, so they appointed the 2 labor attorneys for the MLC. They put Alan Klinger and Harry Greenberg as the labor seats of the Office of Collective Bargaining. And the last I checked, and I do need to go and look again, there were no neutrals, and there was no chair of the Office of Collective Bargaining. That was a jewel in the crown of labor. And that was supposed to oversee and could have stopped all this bullshit that they've been doing. Bob Lynn took some of these negotiations and the healthcare management out of the Office of Collective Bargaining, and they put it into OLR. That took away the oversight. And that's why they've been able to manipulate this shit the way that they have. That must be fixed. And then, of course, the weighted vote needs to be fixed. And we're going to pick that up again, too. So short answer, there was no election. I'll keep you posted. Just a heads up, the survey wouldn't open when I clicked the link on 2 different computers. So I opened the link on my phone. You may have something on your phone that's preventing you from opening that on your computer, because no one else has complained about that. So maybe there's something that's blocking it, or a malware or whatever, but there is no malware on that. It might suspect it's a suspected link, or there might be a pop-up that popped up that maybe you didn't know about. Yvette, I live in Florida in Boynton Beach. My dentist will take it, but I don't think he's a participant. So Sherry, I believe you are DC 37. You need to make sure that you're using the right dental card and that you are using the plan if for Delta, and I forget the name of it. It's like Delta Dental PPO. There's a New York plan and the New York Metro plan, and there's an out-of-state plan. You need to make sure that you're using that one, and then you need to call Delta Dental and ask them which look for dentists that are within your zip code, and they will help you. They helped me because for years I couldn't find one here, and then just recently one opened, and I can go there. We could fully fund the 5-city DB systems if money wasn't going out the window. Yes, I know you keep telling me that, John. We will get there. Is op-ed about 100 billion? I don't know what that means. Opt is OPED. OPEB. Other OPEB. I forget what it stands for. Like other pension hold on, let me Google that. It like left my brain. OPEB. Other post-employment benefits. I honestly can't tell you the number off the top of my head. John Murphy would probably know that number better than me, but I would have to look that up to give you an accurate number. But that OPEB, other post-employment benefits, covers a lot of things that they need to fund. And that's why I'd asked him that question. That would be your healthcare and your welfare fund stuff that they're not properly doing, okay? I never got the doc for the trust fund despite foiling. Okay, Ellen, shoot me that FOIL and I will make sure it gets in the right hands. Just send me the FOIL request that you sent and I will process that for you. Let's see. What can UFT retirees do? UFT leadership essentially ignores or patronizes members. So give me a little time on that. I'm working on something. I do not have an update for you yet, but I'm working on something. Anything on the labor front? No, Matthew, no update for you. Let's see. I'm nearing the end of these. Okay. Is there a way that the MLC votes done without a uniform chair could be thrown out? Is there any way that all MLC votes done without? That'd be pretty wonderful since they've violated their bylaws. But I do have someone I can ask that question. I'm going to ask that question. Thank you, Katie. I will let you know. That's great. Stock transfer tax. So that is a question. It's still, I believe that bill is still introduced by Assemblymember Phil Steck. And for some reason, they don't want to address that, not even the mayor, and I just don't know why. I honestly just don't know why. Marianne, don't know what we would do without you. I don't know what I would do without you guys. Okay, now let me go to my starred questions because here was a few more. How were they planning this? And I know what you were referencing. You wanted to know how they were going to do those pension things. So the pension Ponzi scheme issues, the pension obligation bonds or the reamortization. This is what happens. Last year, Mayor Adams and the UFT and DC 37, even though the DC 37 denied that they were doing it, but they were, went to the state and they had the mayor submit a bill. It was like double F into the state budget, like around the period now, because it was in March, April. And that bill was to re-amortize the pension obligation for New York City Employees Retirement System, Board of Ed Retirement System, and the Teachers Retirement System, not fire and not police. When I went to fire and police, they said to me, hell no, we aren't doing that. That it was only pushed by DC 37 and the UFT. And I said, okay, fine. And you heard Brad Lander on this video. And there's even another video that we have with a conversation at a hearing between Brad Lander and Justin Brannon, then chair of the Finance Committee, saying that this was pushed by the mayor. But why was it pushed by the mayor? Because the two largest unions went to him to do it. That's why. And it was to make up for some of the money in collective bargainings, the 2014 and 2018 MLC deals that both of those unions did, because the court was stopping the Medicare Advantage plan and the city was threatening them with 2 arbitrations, which they are still fighting. And there's a lawsuit between the MLC and the city still in the court docket. So they had to come up with money because, remember, the city told the MLC, you owe us like whatever it was, some ridiculous like $5 billion. And they were trying to find a way to come up with the cash. That's how they were doing it the last time. Okay. We found out about it. We talked about it. I did videos on it. We did emails on it. You guys called all your state legislatures and said, do not do this. And so it got out of one house, but it didn't get out of the other, and it never made it into the budget. Okay. We made a big stink about it, and we're doing it again. We're going to start again next week on this. This is why this is important, because if they do this, this will eventually impact those people's pensions. If there is a fiscal crisis, we want to make sure that they're not tapping rainy day funds, that they're not tapping the retiree health benefit trust, that we are on target to be funded. We need to be fiscally responsible, because then they can't come back to us and say, oh, we need to put you in Medicare Advantage and raise your copays, and we can't provide you with a drug plan anymore. If the cities can't give the unions welfare fund monies, your welfare fund benefits, vision, prescription, dental, hearing, whatever, isn't going to be funded. And if it is, you're going to get a shitty ass plan with high costs. This is why we have to stay on top of this, because we have to keep protecting that. That's not protected welfare fund benefits, only the benefit that the city is giving you. But they can charge you out the rear for it, like they're trying to do again, which is why we want to ramp up our fundraising. And I'll get to that because that's our last business for today. I think reamortization is going to be the default solution for this administration. New York City Comptroller is talking about 40 reamortization for a $4 billion loan. The city mayor is looking at doing the same. So what would happen, right? Let me go back to that conversation. So now you have the mayor talking about doing this. You have the speaker talking about doing it, the reamortization of the pension obligation bonds. If they choose the reamortization like you think that they will, now let's say that law passes. The city council agrees to do it and the governor agrees to do it. Now they have to go back to the 5 pension systems, because this time their proposal is all 5. Now the trustees of all 5 pension systems have to agree. They don't have to, but in order for them to do that, they have to agree. Fire pension, police pension, New York City employees retirement system, Board of Ed retirement system, teachers retirement system. And the ones I can tell you right now that are supporting this right now, that I know for a fact, is the teachers retirement system, because they supported it last year. And the teachers retirement system, the teachers, and Michael Moger was on TV already talking about it. So I'm not familiar. I will tell you the uniformed are not happy with it. But I will also tell you I do not have a final position on where DC 37 is, and I'm working on getting that. So that's the answer for that. So that is the process on how that will happen. And if the trustees of the pension systems agree to do it, it's not the members. This is why you all also need to pressure those trustees. And go and look at those meetings. Like the TRS meetings are online. You can watch the people on there, Victoria Lee and Tom and them, all talking about this, and all the actuary for the city goes to those meetings and he supports this. So this is why you need to pay attention. That's why those sunshine laws are there, so that you could watch and look at what they're doing. They'll close that meeting in 30 minutes and they've passed a resolution in many of these cases to do these things you don't even know about. And then you only find out about it because somebody then writes about it, it's on the news, or I do a video. You need to pay attention to your pension systems trustees. And yes, a reamortization is like refinancing a home mortgage or a car loan. Absolutely. Actives need to look out for the retirees, and the retirees need to look out for actives. Circle the wagons. And that's exactly it. If one thing, Sal, we exposed is that there are some misinformed leadership that will do things they say out of desperation. Look, your union leader at the time said on a video, we never touched the retirees. It was taboo, but we can't do it anymore because we don't got the money. You sure as shit have the money. You didn't have to sell anybody out. You were listening to assholes tell you that the city is broke and you have to steal from your retirees. Union should have said, screw you, we're not going to screw our retirees. They should have banded together and told OLR, kiss my ass in Macy's window. I'm still looking that they fire Bob Lynn. But yes, and then Bob Lynn was working at the MTA as well. Guess what? MTA is forced into Medicare Advantage, and then many of their retirees are coming to us for help because they're getting screwed in their MA plan. Marion, I'm just wondering if there's anything new with some unions giving or selling our prescription data to the city. Great question, Carrie. So the MLC released a bunch of documents. One of them was an agreement. I actually just sent another email out to the unions today because at the MLC meeting, I wanted them to know that we were not happy with the agreement that they put out and still had our concerns about it and wanted them concerned too, as the union welfare funds are a fiduciary and the responsibility is to the member. And this is a major concern that they're not seeing. So after Wednesday's meeting, I got a couple of phone calls. I got a lot of phone calls actually about the agreement, asking for our opinion on it. And I said, well, we're actually reviewing it now. Give me another little while. I will look through it and I will give you a response. What is your main questions? And so then I got text messages from a bunch of unions asking me questions about the agreement. I didn't like that it wasn't on letterhead. I didn't like that it wasn't formal. I didn't like that it didn't say whether it was a business type administrative agreement or what it was. It was vague, and that there's certain criteria under the HIPAA law that had to be in there, and it wasn't. Well, the second round of questions after the meeting came to me is about the escape clause. And they wanted to know, hey, this is saying that there's an opt-out. Can we opt out of this? And I said, well, yes and no. And they said, what is the no? And I said, well, it has to be mutually agreeable between the Union Welfare Fund and the co-administrators, which is Emblem and United. And if Emblem and United doesn't think you have reasonable cause to get out of the agreement, guess what? You're stuck in it. So it's like the mafia, like you get in, but you may not be able to get out. And so we raised that issue today. I got a whole bunch of emails back saying, we thought that was kind of sketchy, but you just kind of confirmed what we were thinking. And so thank you for sharing that. And I said, please don't take my opinion and the opinion of our group as a legal opinion. Please bring what we're saying to you, to your labor lawyer, and have someone look at it. But for the love of Pete, do not bring it to your lawyer if it's Alan Klinger or Harry Greenberg, because they're going to give you the MLC line. Take that to an outside attorney and say, please look at this. And please get rid of Alan Klinger and Harry Greenberg. They're so heavily conflicted at this point. It is not funny. Janice, the number for the Senate bill is right at the top. We do not have an Assembly companion bill yet, but look above. It's up there, and then go back and watch the beginning of this video. Status of the thermometer. Here we go. So I told you we were going to do like $30,000 a month. And with the support that we put out, just even in the last week, we raised $23,623, even starting 2 weeks in the month of April. So we were excited. Many of these are new donors. We are very, very grateful for all that you guys are doing. We need to boost this up because we know that there's going to be this very heavy push that we're going to do going into the next 6 weeks. Remember, the government typically in the state recesses after June. There will be an extended session we're hearing, which will mean that we're going to have to work on getting more support on this bill very, very quickly. And so we need to ramp up what we're going to be doing on this. So I want to thank all of you. Thank you to the new supporters. Thank you to the new donors. Our bookkeeper and our treasurer, Augie, was very, very happy to see that we're increasing our numbers and that our fundraising is starting to tick up. And that I have to thank all of you for. And thank you, Matthew. And I think even William usually asks me that question, but I made sure I had the image for you today. And I will put a thank you up on our Facebook page. So thank you for all of that. Okay, guys, so hour and 18 minutes. Let me just take a quick peek over on Instagram. Let's see what you guys are saying over on Instagram. You mentioned something about a plan for every 20 years. So Falu807, every 20 years, they do, there's a request to reopen the state constitution. That is when we fight not to do it. We usually call it con-con. Your next question, when is the next 20 years? That's a really good question. Let's see. When is, oops, help if I spelt it right. When is the next New York State constitutional reopener? 2037, the next required statewide vote on whether to hold a New York State Constitutional Convention, often referred to as a reopener of the convention question, will be held in 2037. Great question. When you talk about the pension fund, doesn't that exclude TIAA? So that's a really good question. I believe it does exclude TIAA, but I will actually double check that because that's a really good question. And I want to be 100% sure. And I will let you know next week. Have people been complaining about formulary rejections? This is R. Shand 18 from the new pharmacy benefit manager prime. 100%. Absolutely 100%. So let me say this as well. For those of you that are having drug plan issues, I would urge you to try to reach out to your welfare fund, or if it's the city plan, city drug rider, reach out to Emblem. If you try and you're failing to get satisfaction, email us, retirees@nycretirees.org. Go to our website. Email us, and then me and Bob will answer those emails and we will direct them. Yesterday, I was watching I got a snapshot of a chat actually while I was relaxing watching TV, and someone sent me a chat of someone in the RTC meeting complaining about not getting their medications approved. We took that, we handed it to Emblem, and they reached out to the person today. So, and they told me, we're contacting them right now. Thank you for sharing this with us. We're looking into their situation. Perfect. And that's what we do. I don't need to know about your business. You just need to tell me what the problem is that you're having, and then we direct the call to the proper party and it gets addressed. So yes, absolutely. But if you're not the only person having this problem. There's many people that are having problems, not just with the NYC EPPO plan, with the NYC EPPO drug plan, or with the Emblem drug rider for the City of New York Medicare population. You are not alone. So if you're having those issues, I may start to do another, if you're really telling me that this, I'm seeing now more text messages on this. If you're telling me that you guys are having a problem, I may do another survey and ask you for your contact info like we did when this plan first rolled out, and let you know that we're here to help. And then we can take that information and share it again with the insurance company. Ed Birch, people should write to Emblem and ask them for copies of their EOBs during the period in dispute. Yeah, well, you should always be looking at your EOBs, absolutely. Primary elections and candidates that support us, great question. So early voting is through Sunday for District 3 in Lower Manhattan. And that you saw on our show last week, we had Layla Logisico. I put it again in the newsletter today. That early voting ends on Sunday. The election is on Tuesday. So please get out if you are in Lower Manhattan, District 3. It's Eric Botcher's former district, as Eric's now in the Senate. Please make sure you vote for Layla. I think there's like 4 people running in that race. None of the others have responded back to us. None of them have supported us. None of them have said that they would support legislation to protect your health care, except Layla Logisico, District 3. And right now, that's all I have. I'm not aware of any other elections. There are some other people who are looking for our support on the state side, and we're working on those in the next couple of weeks. Yes, thank you, Serena Mia. I did believe TIAA was private. And also, we were talking to a bunch of other people the other day. We were being told that the culturals, like the museums and the zoos, they don't get Medicare B reimbursement. That's a pretty shitty thing. This should be like an across the board thing. And that's where, again, some of those locals dropped the ball. Good to know. I am on medications for decades, and many of them all of a sudden are not covered. I had to pay out of pocket this month, but I can't do it every month. So Dan, I don't know if you're Medicare or non-Medicare, but again, please send that information to us as to what's not covered and what you had to pay for, and we will have them look into it. And do remember, if you are on Medicare, it's a $2,100 maximum out-of-pocket spend. Once you've hit that, you've hit that maximum out-of-pocket, and then there are no more costs for the year. Thank you, Carmel. It's good to see you. By the way, the 3 unions that are part of TRS are UFT, CSA, principals, APs, and other admins, and PSC CUNY. UFT runs the show since they are the largest. All the more reason to undo the weighted vote. I hear you, girl. My name is Yolanda Jones, and I need help with my workers' comp. Yolanda Jones, we don't do workers' comp, but if you have a workers' comp problem, you probably need a workers' comp attorney. And I don't know who you're dealing with, but that is not us. We don't help with that. If you are retired and you're having a workers' comp issue, you can share with us that issue. Maybe we can help you, guide you, but that's not something that we actually work on. I actually called the CEO of Emblem. A week later, my mailman delivered like 100 envelopes with EOBs. Good for you. But you can look them up online. They're in your portal. You really should be creating an Emblem account. Okay. You're welcome, Joanna. New York City Medicare retirees formulary on the city drug rider is much smaller than our former Express Scripts formulary. I agree with you. I think that they did change that. But I have not gone in the weeds and pulling all of them out. I'm also noticing that there's some generics that are not covered, but name brands that are, and that's another play. And if you saw my Twitter back and forth with Mark Cuban from Cost Plus Drugs, Mark agreed with me that many formularies or PBMs will not cover a generic because they get the larger rebate back from the manufacturer for the name brand drug. I was pretty happy to see my response retweeted liked by Mark Cuban was pretty cool. New DEA plan bad, dropping drugs from plan, needing prior auth on drugs. Actually, Gwen, we do need to follow back up on that because we never heard back. I'm going to put that on my list. And we're probably going to need to do what we did before is we have to make that call together, okay? Ed Birch, I talked about the copay case earlier at the top of this. Thank you. With your brains and dedication, I worry about being kicked off Medicare in the future, and I hope somehow there's funding to keep us on Medicare. EXO from Santa. You're welcome, my dear. Okay, Arshan, if Medicare Prime won't cover the drug, your out-of-pocket doesn't count towards catastrophic. You're correct. And so on Instagram, if the drug is not in the formulary and you have to pay for it, it does not count towards your out-of-pocket. Absolutely. Yes, they won't cover my generic drug, only name brand. Okay, now I want you to send me an email on those 2 issues. I want to know what the drug is that they're not covering and the one that they are, and won't cover the drug, and what is the out-of-pocket that you ended up having to pay for. So our Shand 18, retirees at nycretirees.org, send me that information with your contact and what plan you're on. I'm hoping you're going to tell me you're on the city drug plan. PSC CUNY, that's a different question, is having a meeting on the PPO on the 7th. Okay. I will be on Medicare June 1. No more PPO. Yes. Okay, Arsham, perfect. So you're going to send that and say, hey, I spoke to Marianne on the Friday Live. This is what she asked for. And then give me that information. Make sure your email, because you're sending me an email, I'll have your email. Make sure your phone number is there. And just a little blurb about these medication issues. Just be simple about it. And then I assure you, I will handle that for you. Okay. Hour and a half. I'm done. You guys have oops, there's another question here. What is this? Prime Therapeutics and Emblem are in cahoots. Yes, Mark Cuban told you they often disallow generic drugs but favor non-generic drugs as these PBMs get kickbacks. Yes, he did. I'm glad he recognized. I knew what I was talking about. Thank you, Marion, for all your hard work that you do for us city workers. You're the best. You're welcome, Sherry. Meds that was always covered on generic, not being covered for my dependent. So, Anne, could you send me the generics that were covered before but not covered now, please? I just need a list of them. You don't need to get into too much detail with your contact info. Another super nauseating moment of yesterday's RTC meeting. That's a big comment there, Laura. Was response to retiree Michael Brocum was awful. He announced DC 37's special election urging attendees to vote for Layla Logisico, as she's the only candidate to commit to our retiree bills, just as he was warning attendees that they should not vote for candidates endorsed by the UFT. He got shot down by Bennett. Mr. Brocum said Bennett had been recruiting phone banking for the UFT candidate. Bennett isn't working to pass our retiree. Kind of got cut off there, but I kind of know what you're saying to me. Yeah, so I don't understand why the RTC is not coming up with its own endorsements and is not vetting their own candidates. If you're vetting a candidate that supports the union position but not the retiree position, you're working against yourself. The retiree organization needs to advocate for itself, and Bennett needs to take a position to vet a candidate that responds to the needs of a retired person. If none of the candidates, and like Carl Wilson, who was, I believe, who they were phone banking for, looking for retirees to phone bank for, won't commit to supporting, protecting retirees and doing legislation, guess what? He shouldn't be supported by a retiree. And the RTC shouldn't be doing that either. But that's a whole nother conversation. You're welcome, Carol. You have a great weekend. You too, William. Thank you for everything. Having big problems with Prime Therapeutics. Same thing, GM35777. Just send us an email with what the issue is. If you're not getting your drugs approved, we need to know. And I will also tell you, for those of you emailing us, please let us know if you're interested in speaking to the press about this, because we keep getting calls asking if there's members having problems on the NYC EPPO and also any of the drug plans, whether you're Medicare or on the NYC EPPO plan. They're getting calls from active workers, and they want to know if retirees are having the same issues. I said yes, but I haven't asked, in a long time to see if you guys are actually having an issue that need to be addressed. If you're having a problem, give us the problem. We'll help you get that fixed, because that's the priority. And then 2, if you're interested to speak to the press about it, please let me know, because then we will put you in touch with that reporter. Ed Birch, are these weight loss injectables all covered? No. And if they're for weight loss, no. They made it only for those who are diabetic. So sorry, I hate to tell you that. But that's been a common thing. They've been saying that for, I don't know, almost a year now. Thank you, Marianne from 831 Active and Retirees. Sal, mwah, love ya. And let me know if you guys need some more information or whatever, but keep the fight on and make sure that you keep your members educated and answer those great questions, whatever they have. If you need help, let me know. You're welcome. Why can't young people understand this? I don't know. I have no idea. I would be happy to talk to the press about the problems with Prime Therapeutics. Shoot me that email. Shoot that to me in an email, Ellen. I'm just going to forward it on. That's great. Hopefully the person involved, he will start to pay attention. All right, great. Don't tell me here, press, I don't know how to get in touch with you. You need to send me an email that you're having problems with the NYC EPPO or the city drug plan, and you're willing to speak to the press. Tell me what the problem is so I can send it to the insurance company to get fixed. And then I will take that email and I'll send it to the press so that I'm just going to forward it. Make sure your contact is there. Name, phone number, issue. Okay. I'm calling it a night, 6:30. It's an hour and a half. I love you guys. You have a great, great weekend. Remember, we have a Senate bill only, not an Assembly companion yet. It is coming. There will be some minor tweaks to this language, but that's it. Senate Bill 9945, State Senator Joe Adabo. Make sure you call your local state senators. In the chat, I did post earlier, and I'm going to put it again. in both Facebook, YouTube, as well as Instagram, how to find your senator. And please go ahead and find your person. If you're not in the state of New York, just call your last house, call your last job location. Just pick one of the many, a couple of the many, and call them and say, listen, this is our health bill, and it would really mean a lot to us if you supported this legislation to protect retiree health benefits. Retirees are not in unions, and they're always looking to diminish our health care in retirement, and we need this to survive. Would you help us? And if they need help, you direct them to the organization using our website. All right, everyone, you have a great, great weekend. I love you, and I will talk to you guys probably Monday on the radio. Ciao.
Don't speak what you don't understand.